Haribol, Haribol, Dandavat Pranams. So today is Monday, 23rd of September, special day, the Tirobhav of Sri Bhakti Sirup Siddhanti Goswami Maharaj. So we'll say something a little bit about him, and then we'll go into our introduction still on Gopi Gita. So we'll have a kirtan and then we'll begin. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Narayaniti Namine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Dishadharine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Gaura Prasthaya Bhutale Shri Srimad Bhakti Pragyana Keshaviti Namine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Iti Namine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, oh Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Bol. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol. Jaya Nityananda Rai, Jaya Nityananda Rai, Nityananda Rai, Jaya Nityananda Rai. Jaya Sachi Nandan Jaya Gaura Hari, Sachi Nandan Jaya Gaura Hari. Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe. Radhe, 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 Radhe. Jai Shri Guru Garanga Ganhava Giri Hare. Radha Madhav Ju Ki Jai, Shri Vrishabhanananda Vajeshwari Radharani Ki Jai, Nityananda Rai Ki Jai, Satchinandana Gaura Hari Ki Jai, Jai Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Asto Tarasara Shishimad Shila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai, Jai Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Asto Tarasara Shishimad Shila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Shila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Jai Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Asto Tarasara Shishimad Shila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai, Jai Jagat Guru Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Asto Tarasara Shishimad Shila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai, Jai Paramahamsa Mahabhagavat Shila Gaura Kishodas Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai, Jai Satam Goswami Shila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai, Jai Vaishnav Sabhaboma Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai, Jai Shila Baladevi Dibhushan Gaudi Varantaracharya Ki Jai, Jai Rasik Siramani Shila Vishnath Chakravarti Thakur Ki Jai, Jai Shri Narottam Srinivas Shyamananda Prabhu Treya Ki Jai, Jai Shri Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami Ki Jai, Jai Shri Rup, Sanatan, Shri Bhata Raghunath, Shri Jiva Gopal, Bhattadasa Raghunath Sat Goswami Prabhu's Ki Jai, Rupa Nuga Guru Varga Ki Jai, Jai Swarab Damodar Rai Ramananda Gaura Parsada Ki Jai, Namacharya Shilaharadas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Sigahol Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shivasari Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Antadvip, Mayapur, Simantadvip, Gaudurandvip, Madhyadvip, Koladvip, Ritudvip, Janadvip, Modandvip, Rududvip, Atmaka Navadvip Dham Ki Jai, Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopi Govardhan Vadasa, Varmatmika Shri Brajamandal Ki Jai, Shri Radha Kund, Shama Kund, Ganga Jamuna Devi, Bhakti Devi, Tulsi Devi, Maharani Ki Jai, Shrimati Vrinda Devi Maharani Ki Jai, Shrimati Purnamasi Devi Yogamaya Maharani Ki Jai, Shri Gopishwa Mahadev Ki Jai, Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Sudarshan Chakra Ki Jai, Ketramandal Ki Jai, Sarva Vigna Manasa Karishina Shingadev Bhagavan ki jai. Bhakta Prabha Shri Prahlad Maharaj ki jai. Charidam ki jai. Shari Sampradaya ki jai. Charya Chari ki jai. Akara Maharaj Shri Chaitanya Mat ki jai. Shri Keshav Ji Gaudiya Mat ki jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Ananta Kota Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Samagata Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Om Agina Timirandasya Gyananjala Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Jina Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarabhaktaya Namo Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Jina Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kathamayam Tadati Swapatantikam Priya Swarupe, Daita Swarupe, Prema Swarupe, Sahajiva Rupe, Nijana Rupe, Prabhueka Rupe, Tatana Rupe, Swavila Swarupe, Anapita Chirim Chirat, Kuranavar Tinokalo, Samarapaitam Unnata Ujvala Rasam Swavakti Shriyam, Hari Purata Sundaratuti Katamba Satipita, Sada Hridare Kandare Spadatu Vasachinandanaha, Yam Pravachantamana Petiam Apeti Krityam, Dvaipaeno Viraha Katara Ajuhava, Putre titam mayatayo tarabo pinidus tam sarvabhutam kritim munimanatoshmi Bhaktiya vihina aparada lakshay shiptascha karmadita rangamadye Kripa mahitvam sharanam prapana Prinde namaste charanarvindam Vachami radam aravinda netram Smarami radam madhurashmitasyam Vadami radam karuna paradram Tato mamanasti katyana kapi Tavaivasmi najivami tavaivina iti vignaya radhe tvam nayam charanantikam. I'm first of all offering millions and millions of Dandavat pranams unto the lotus feet of my most beloved Gurudev Nitya Leela Pravishta Om Astautar Sadashi Shimad Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And again I'm offering millions of Dandavat pranams unto the lotus feet of our most beloved Nitya Leela Pravishta Om Astautar Sadashi Shimad Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, and all our illustrious Rupanuga Guru Varga, and all the Vaishnavi devotees of the Lord, my Dandavat pranams to all of you. Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhuvivacha, Patitanam Pavnibhyo Vaishnave Namo Namaha. So today is the Tirabhav of Shripad Bhakti Sirup Siddhanti Goswami Maharaj, who was an exceptional, powerful preacher of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta in Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati's army of devotees. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, when he chanted his billion names, and he had the darshan of the Panchatattva, and he was instructed to begin this movement by Mahaprabhu directly himself, then he asked the question, where will I get the men from? And Mahaprabhu answered him, I will send you. So every time Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati got an exceptional jewel of a devotee, he would always say, oh, Mahaprabhu has sent this person to me to join this mission. So there are many, many, many stalwart followers of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. And Srila Swarup Siddhanti really stands out amongst all those people. He was a great preacher, very direct, very bold, and he would just say exactly the truth. Sometimes it would appear harsh, but nevertheless the effect would be there. He also translated and he wrote commentaries on the Vedanta Sutra, on the Bhagavad Gita, and the Upanishads. He was a very learned personality. So today we're celebrating his Tirabhav and remembering his moods of absolute Sharanagat to Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami. So Sri Srimad Bhakti Swarup Siddhanti Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. So now we're coming to our subject matter of Gopi Gita, and we haven't got past the introduction yet. We're still doing the introduction. But I said something last time, and I just wanted to give the praman for that, because I didn't give a praman. That this Raganuga Bhakti is only manifesting in this world with the advent of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And I gave something of the history, how Madhavendra Puri was called the Prem Ankur. That means the sprout, the very seed of Bhav Bhakti. And from him manifested Ishwara Puri, and from him Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So prior to this, there was no Braj Ras, there was no Braj Prem being propagated. There was some different esoteric, very beautiful writings about the Lord's nature and so on by the Alvars in South India, those 12 Alvars, which happened immediately after the departure of Lord Krishna. They carried the current of bhakti through, and they have beautiful writings and so on. But as far as this Brajaras is concerned, no one could have had access to that without understanding the conceptions of Parakiya Ras. Without Parakiya Ras, there is no such thing as Braj Prem. Doesn't exist. There's no Braj Ras. There's no Braj Leela without Parakiya. Parakiya is essential. So Mahaprabhu is saying in the 3rd chapter of Adi Leela, and Mahaprabhu is saying this in the 26th verse, 3rd chapter, he's saying, my plenary portions can establish the principles of religion for each age, his plenary portions. No one but me, however, can bestow the kind of loving service performed by the residents of Braj. Only Mahaprabhu can actually give an understanding and explanation of this Parakiya Ras. No one else can do so. We should be very secure in our understanding of this and appreciate the absolute rarity of what we have in our hands today. Even when Mahaprabhu was on the planet, then so many of his parakas didn't actually understand this Parakiya Ras. When they met Rupa Goswami, it's described in the Antilila 1st chapter, in Siddha Bakul, when he was staying in Puri, and he began to read excerpts from his Vidagdha Madhav, beautiful verses about the holy name, etc. Ramananda Roy was there, Swarup Damodar was there, Nityananda was there, Advaita Acharya was there, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was there, all the stalwart followers of Mahaprabhu, and they were just amazed at the beauty and speciality of Rupa Goswami's teachings, what he was saying. He'd captured the heart of Mahaprabhu, but they hadn't been fully conversant themselves. When they heard this, then they were absolutely assured, oh yes, Mahaprabhu's mission is going to be successful in the world. So only because of this Guru Varga, this Rupanuga Guru Varga, are we getting this truth today. Through Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, Jiva Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami, Krishnadas Kaviraj, all of these personalities. This is why we are getting this truth. But prior to Mahaprabhu, these truths were not available. So we should consider ourselves remarkably fortunate. And these truths won't be available so long on the planet, necessarily. Shuddha Bhakti will perpetuate itself. But these very esoteric truths of Braja Prem, describing Parakiya Bhav, how many people today on the circuit of the preachers are speaking about these topics today? My Gurudev was just left, 10 years ago, 14 years ago, 2010. So he very much injected these conceptions into the Gaudiya line by speaking them very boldly, and he was criticized tremendously for doing it. People didn't want to hear about it. That was the climate. He spoke these truths. Many of the different Gaudiya missions, they reject my Gurudev's boldness in preaching about Raganuga Bhakti, but this was the purpose of Mahaprabhu's advent. We should be unequivocally sure of this, absolutely rock solid. This is the reason for Mahaprabhu's advent, was to give, and it's very esoteric topics. It's a condition of the heart. And I've had something of a build-up. I've tried to describe, first of all, the Gopis Prem, the nature of the Gopis Prem, because these activities look like the average activities between teenagers, young lovers. But we have to build a secure foundation of the nature of these gopis, of their praying, this selfless love, this absolutely selfless love. This is praying, this is not lust. So I've given that document, and I spoke the other day, that we should be very sure of the nature of the gopis. It's not just some ordinary, we shouldn't even entertain. We have these sanskars because we're in the conditioned state of consciousness, so we just remember. All we're capable of doing is remembering what's in the material world. But we're trying to train ourselves to appreciate what is the nature of spiritual life in fact. How high is that spiritual conception? It is so high. Srila Bhaktivinoda Bharati Maharaj would not allow us to sing songs like Brishubhana Sutta, various songs like this that we used to sing with my Gurudev. He wanted to establish a very firm platform for these truths. We have to be solid in them. And if these truths are not spoken of with an understanding of Aishwarya at the base, then they're just no different to the pastimes between young men and young women. We might talk about what is Madhurya. Oh, it's the sweetness of Radha and Krishna's pastimes, or the gopis' pastimes. But if a full understanding of this Aishwarya is not there, it'll just be very mundane. So we have to have full honor and reverence for these pastimes. So with these types of thoughts, I'm going to enter into or continue reading the introduction to Gopi Gita. But remember how special it is. It's not just because we often talk about it casually, but we should see what is the reality and how exalted a topic is this. These are not just mundane in any sense at all. So last time we were together, I reached the place where Nanda Baba, he's hearing from the Gopas, "We think your son is Krishna." And Nanda Baba laughs, and he's got a big belly, and he's holding the sides of his belly, and he's chuckling, laughing. He's shaking, laughing. And then he accuses the Gopas of they don't actually get their full teeth. They keep their milk teeth until they're 80 years old. In other words, they don't grow up until they're older. He's accusing them of being very immature. How can this be God when he steals and lies and does all sorts of mischief? How can this be God? Now in this instance, it's showing the exalted nature of Nanda Baba's Vatsalya prema. Even if his son lifts up an entire mountain, even if he is God, Nanda Baba's final words were, even if he is God, he's still my son. This is called Vatsalya prema. And Mother Yashoda is the same. So this is not ordinary love. This is something so extraordinary. So this we have to deeply appreciate in these pastimes. Because sometimes it might appear to be like the Leela is very familiar and casual, we might say. But we should always hold this reverential appreciation until we are qualified. And then Krishna will give us that mercy to enter into these pastimes in its proper state of consciousness. Not like any sort of sahajya, not just a materially exciting topic or something. So Nanda Baba continued to laugh at the notion that Krishna is God. Then Yoga Maya came, and by her influence, everyone present forgot this idea. Yoga Maya is tremendous. She always keeps the desire of the Lord. The Lord wants to perform Nara Leela. What does Nara Leela mean? Human-like pastimes. Only human-like pastimes. This is what he wants to perform. And he himself relishes so much when he forgets that he's that supreme personality of Godhead. In Vaikuntha, he likes that mood. He creates that state of consciousness for so many conditioned souls who also love that mood of awe and reverential worship to the Lord. And Lord Narayan will reciprocate with that in Vaikuntha. He'll appreciate that. But in his heart of hearts, he wants to be with Radhika in a very loving, madhurya, sweet environment where he's not considered this, where his mother can bind him, where his father can chastise him, where the gopis especially can pull his ears. They can call him debauchee, etc. And he relishes that. He relishes these accusations by the gopis more than he does the opulent prayers of the Vedas. He relishes them more. So we have to take in the whole dynamic of this. We're going to enter into a world of absolute prema. This Gopi Gita, we've said before, is the highest of all these, it's the topmost of all the Gits. Although Brahmara Gita is also exceptional. This incident took place during the month of Kartik, when Sri Krishna was 7 years old. And it was just after Kartik that the gopis worshipped Katyayani. There were two groups of gopis, married and unmarried. Although it was the unmarried gopis who worshipped Katyayani, the married gopis like Lalita Vishaka and Srimati Radhika also had Purvarag, the gopis' tender love for Krishna before their first intimate meeting with him. This is because, although they had met with him so many times, they always felt the excited anticipation of a first meeting. This is the transcendental reality, is that even though they'd met so many times, still when they'd meet, they think, who is this beautiful boy? I've never seen him before. They've been playing in the dust with him since they were kids. But then when they meet him, because of that purvarag, they feel such intoxicated bliss and pleasure as if they'd never met him before. It's called Naveen Krishna, ever fresh. Krishna is ever fresh. The unmarried gopis were somewhat younger than the married gopis. Srimati Radhika is 13.5 years old, and Krishna is 14. Krishna is 14 and 7 months, and 7.5 days. And Radhika is 13 and 2 months and 6 days, I think it is. Lalita is 27 days older than Srimati Radhika, and Vishaka was born at the same day as Radhika. Vishaka is born at the same moment as Radhika. They're both born exactly the same time. Rupa Manjari and Rati Manjari are a little over 12 years old. Now these ages, try to listen, understand. Sometimes they're referenced in their real ages in the past time, who are much younger. And sometimes they're referenced from our perspective of calculating an age according to how we would do today. So according to today, the Manjaris are about 12 years old, but in actual fact, they were about 7 or 8 years old. If Krishna is going to be 8 years old, described lifting Govardhan Hill, how old were the Manjaris? So there's an adjustment here that we have to calculate each time. When Radha and Krishna go to perform that Ras Leela, it's like they grow up into their eternal Kishori age, their eternal teenage age. But when they come away from there, they're back in their much younger ages, in their pastimes in the village. Understand? A little bit.
Kind of.
Yeah, I mean, a 7-year-old boy 5,000 years ago had a different mentality to a 7-year-old boy today. A 7-year-old boy 5,000 years ago. For example, they were not the same size. Krishna is about 16, 17 feet tall. That's the size of the inhabitants during Dwapara Yuga. Everyone had much bigger. And what to speak of Treta Yuga, they were even bigger. Satya Yuga, they were huge. We know the story of Muchakunda. When he was in Satya Yuga fighting with the demigods, then he had the benediction. that he could just go to sleep, and then Krishna woke him up, and he was just enormous. He was way too big to take part in the pastimes. So Krishna sent him to Badrikashram. So as the ages come down, the sizes, just like the trees, are very small now. They're almost like bushes. The more you chop down these huge trees, the regrowth comes, and they're much smaller than the bigger trees. So that's the science of it. That's how it is. Everything in the ages diminishes into Kali, and then it comes a crunch, then there's a transition, then it starts Satya Yuga again, and everything becomes... So Krishna actually had a much, much bigger body for a start. So a 7-year-old youth, that, of course, everything is relative at the time. When Krishna had his 16 feet, just about. Baladev is taller than Krishna, bigger than Krishna. He's about 17, 18 feet. So, but everything else is relative to that size. The trees are like the Govardhan Hill, when Krishna was on the planet, was 2.5 miles high. How big is Mount Everest? Mount Everest, I think, is... Look it up on your thing. Huh? I don't think it's even as high as that. But that's the highest mountain we have on the planet today. But when Krishna was on the planet, Govardhan Hill was 2.5 miles high. And previously, Govardhan Hill was, I think it's 8 yojans high. So 8 times 8, 64 miles high. That's how high he was before he became cursed by Pulasti Rishi to shrink 1 mustard seed, 1 sesame seed a day. That's how high he was previously. Then he sank to 2.5. It's described that the shadow of Govardhan would cover Mathura when the sun... What is it? It's less than a mile, isn't it? Anyway, just to get some mood, some picture. Because my Gurudev is talking about the ages. This means that when Krishna was 7 years old, the gopis who were engaged in the worship of Katyani were about 6 years old, but they already had love and affection for him. Their love for Krishna was not calm, amorous affection, because calm is not possible at such an age. They loved him deeply, but without calm. Yes, they had no lusty desires whatsoever. They just loved him. He's beautiful. Krishna is so beautiful. How can you not love him? Krishna told those gopis engaged in worship, next year, during the autumn season, I will fulfill your desires. So therefore, Krishna would have been 8 years old. Then a year later, when Krishna was about 8 years old, he played his flute to call the gopis to the Ras dance. It is said when Krishna was in Vrindavan until he was 10 years old, and within that time he performed Rasa Leela as well as all his Vrindavan pastimes. In other words, he appeared to be 14 years old when he was actually only 10 years old. This is what I'm trying to explain, if you can get the crossover, the link. So he was actually 10 years old, but he appeared to be older. Speaking in a humorous mood, typical of the playful nature of a maidservant of Srimati Radhika, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has said that they grew up very quickly because they used to eat so much butter and sugar candy. In actual fact, the reason they appeared to be teenagers is because of the influence of Yoga Maya. This is the crossover. Did you find it? 5.5 miles. 5.5 miles. You sure?
I'm telling you, Google.
Okay. 5.5 miles. Okay. I thought it was less. So that's pretty high, but compared to Govardhan, anyway. So by the influence of Yoga Maya, they manifest at different ages at different times. This Leela is achintya. This Leela is inconceivable. But still we can get something of an idea. We have to get something of an idea. But we should know it's in the spiritual reality. And we should know that we are very tiny and insignificant. And we're just looking to appreciate these Leelas more and more. In their previous births, some of the young unmarried gopis had been personified Vedic scriptures called Shrutis, and they are known as Shruti-chari gopis. Some had been personified Upanishads and are known as Upanishad-chari gopis. So that's two types. Some had been sages from the Dandakaranya forest, Dandakaranya rishis. Some had been princesses, Rajakumaris from Janakpuri, and some daughters of the demigods, Devakanya. So there's 5 types of persons who manifested as the gopis. There's the Shruti-charis and the Upanishad-charis, Dandakaranya rishis, the Rajkumaris, and the Devakanyas. 5 types. This is apart from the original Shaktis of Krishna, apart from the original Nityasiddha gopis. Among the gopis, some had the association of the Nityasiddha gopis, and they also had Purvarag. These gopis easily entered the Ras Leela, whether they were married or not. The unmarried gopis were already betrothed, and therefore they also thought of Krishna as their beloved in a paramour mood. This is very important to appreciate. You have to have this paramour mood. It's not Braj Ras without the paramour mood. Absolutely, the paramour mood must be there, Parakiya. And it's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who is giving us this. That jiffy thing is supposed to go against the door, Asaf. Where are we? On the other hand, the married gopis who had Purvarag did not have the association of Nityasiddha gopis, were stopped from entering. So without that association, they could not enter the Ras Leela. The gopis described in the above mentioned verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 10.22.1 had association with the Nityasiddha gopis. We know this because at the end of the month, they invited Radhika, Lalita, Vishaka, Chitra, and the others, such gopis, to join them in their worship. Those Katyani young Kumaris, they invited these elder Nityasiddha gopis to join them. This means that they had the association of those gopis, and consequently they could easily enter the Ras dance. This is confirmed in the Srimad Bhagavatam. The Nityasiddha gopis and those who had their association entered the Ras Leela without difficulty, whereas the married gopis with sons or daughters were checked by Yogamaya. If they had consorted with their husbands physically and produced children, then they were checked by Yogamaya. She made an arrangement not to let them come. Even though they had Purvarag, this Purvarag is very, very high. This Purvarag is that anticipation mood. It's the first type of separation. 4 types of separation, remember? Purvarag, Man, Prem Vaitshitya, and Purvas. We should know these. If we want to go to Goloka Vrindavan, sometimes people say, oh, he left, he went back to Godhead, but he doesn't know any of this. Where's he going to go? Honestly, think about it. Where's he going to go? If he hasn't done his homework, how can he get through the exam? Sometimes you say flippantly, oh, because he distributed a lot of books, he's going back to Godhead. But did he read the books? Did he understand the books? Did he even attempt to enter into what is the reality of Braja Prem? It's not going to happen by a miracle. Not like a business arrangement. Oh, I'll do so much and then I'll get this result for it. Surely God will give me the benefit of the doubt because I've done so much work. No. The benefit of the seva will produce the possibility of having higher association. That will be the benefit. That will be the sukriti incurred from doing copious amounts of seva. They will be benefited by higher association to hear about these topics. If you don't hear about these topics regularly, we have to keep them on the boil. Isn't it true? You go away from hearing about these topics and straight away you go into the mental, oh, how is my scooter today? How is my mother today? How is my father today? How is my sore back? I'm hungry. We immediately go into the bodily platform. That's why, without having regular Harigata about these topics, it will go off the boil. How much do we want this? We describe the ingredient was lobha, was greed, lolium. Without this greed, this will not manifest. Greed comes from the Rasik Vaishnava, who is already situated in that place. He is giving that greed. And when we associate with him in his manifest lila, we also can pick up that. But to maintain it after his departure is the test of our actual affection for him, for that personality. It's a very rare thing. It's not like a miracle's just going to happen just because I clocked up lots of brownie points doing artis and numbers, jibber jabber, and books, etc. It can't be like that. Something has to happen in the heart to become absolutely attached and attracted to hearing these pastimes first, and then speaking about these pastimes. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam. First we hear Shravanam, and then Kirtan. What is Kirtan? Kirtan is speaking about these topics. And then Smaranam will come. Without this Smaranam, then how can there be progress in this area? It's not a lightweight topic, really. It's just not. How much do we hold sacred this material birth and all that goes along with it and all the trappings of it? And it's just one body in one life, and we've had millions of bodies, and we've become so attached to this particular body and life. We have to see. Only by seeing clearly the extent of my attachment can I start to purify that attachment. If we don't really look at it and see it ruthlessly, we're just going to remain gripped by the Mayic attached conception. It's just the truth. This is confirmed in the Srimad Bhagavatam. The Nitya Siddha Gopis and those who had their association entered the Ras Leela without difficulty, whereas the married gopis with sons and daughters were checked by Yogamaya. Even though they had Purvarag, they could not go. It appeared that it was their husbands who had obstructed them, but actually it was Yogamaya who did so. She had entered the minds of their husbands, fathers, mothers, and other relatives, influencing them to prevent the gopis from going. If Yogamaya had wanted them to join the Rasa Leela, she would have made duplicate forms of those gopis. In this way, the real gopis would have been able to leave their homes unnoticed and enter Rasa Leela. They were able to, because we read that whole Pranaya Gita, how they had the cakes in the oven, they were feeding children, they were feeding their husbands. They suddenly hear that flute song and they just ran, they dropped everything. Wouldn't that create absolute pandemonium in the village? Millions of young girls just suddenly running into the forest. Yogamaya, she arranged for replicas to manifest immediately so that they could do that and join Krishna, which again exemplifies the point that this is a completely transcendental pastime. But it appears like human pastimes. Anugrahaya bhaktanam manusyam deha ashridha bhajate tat rishi kritva yak shutva tat paro bhavet. Krishna appears in a human-like form in order to attract the conditioned souls to him. These are the most wonderful divine topics if they're approached in the correct manner and ultimately in our deepest meditations of wanting to please Krishna and Radhika. However, she could not help those gopis because they had some traces of consciousness that was not favorable for fully developed paramour love in relationship to Krishna, Parakiya Bhav. They still had the conception, this is my husband and these are my children. Their affection was not solely for Krishna, but was shared with many others. It's described like the queens of Dwarka, for example. They give Krishna 1/12 of their love. They have such high Swakya Bhav, Anurag it's described, but still they have 10 sons, 1 daughter, and then Krishna. So their love is divided into 12 sections. So Krishna gets 1/12 of that. How can that be sufficient for, remember the name of that Rati that controls Krishna? Who remembers the name? Samartha Rati. Samartha Rati. Yeah, good memory, yes. He always gets it right. Samartha Rati. And what is the Rati of the Mahishis? Samanjasa. Yes, this Samanjasa Rati. We should know these names. This is a whole language that Rupa Goswami has manifested, because these topics are beyond human words that we have in our everyday language. So Rupa Goswami, he's made a whole vocabulary so that we can describe these topics. As soon as you say Samartha, I know exactly what you're talking about. As soon as you say Samanjasa, I know exactly what you're talking about. As soon as you say Rati, I know exactly what you're talking about. They have no real equivalent in the English language. So we should take the time to learn the language that Rupa Goswami has given us. If we're not really interested, then how is it going to manifest? We just go on distributing books and hope for the best. Hope Prabhupada will cover for us, but he won't. He will to some degree, and we'll get another body where we'll be distributing books again. And hopefully in that time, perhaps we'll have a deeper appreciation for what's in the books, because that's where the key comes. Yes, sir.
The gopis in Braj, they also have children?
Gopis what?
In Braj. They also have children with their husbands?
The gopis?
In Braj.
In Braj. It's described, there's 2 opinions here. Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur says none of the gopis who actually came to the Ras Leela directly had children themselves, but they would be looking after the children of their other friends, etc. They would be looking after, because it's talking in the, when you read the Sa'artha Darshani, the pastimes, it says that these gopis were with children, but Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur explains clearly these were not their own children. They were babysitting these various children. So they didn't consort with their husbands in that degree. So they didn't have children. They had this total nishta to Krishna, and that never happened. We are now beginning the devotional process. If our eternal spiritual form is that of a gopi, we will develop an increasing taste to serve as a gopi. We will gradually be able to perform sadhana like Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Raghunath Das Goswami. And in this way, we will develop a yearning to be like the gopis. We've got to have that. We say greed. Greed for what? Greed for the desire to serve like Raghunath. Now Raghunath, his renunciation is, we would say, extreme in any circumstances. He didn't even take he wasn't begging at the Singadvaha. He didn't take the free food from the free booth store. He went to that Taringa gate where the refuse, the rice was thrown for the cows, and he would take the rice that was left over from the cows, wash it carefully, and put a bit of salt with it, and just live on that. And when he came to Radha Kund, all he would take was 1 leaf cup full of buttermilk every day. His renunciation is extreme. But in our own circumstances, we should look to restrict our senses in as many opportunities as are given to us from direct. As soon as we engage the senses with the objects, we're captured by the Mayic energy. We need to be aware of this daily, and the Hare Krishna mantra is going to help us. It's going to always give us that constant support. This is why we have to chant constantly. Chanting constantly means I'm at least chanting a lakh a day. That's what it means. All of us should be. If we're interested in this path, if we're serious about this, it requires some serious application. It's not just going to drop off the leaf. you believe him? He's been distributing books today. He's tired. Anyway,
I have a question.
tell me.
If there's no diminution, does it mean that no matter what we're doing this time, we'll do better next time?
If there's no diminution,
No loss or diminution.
no loss or diminution, does it mean?
We'll do better next time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's like a bank balance is described. Whatever we do in a purely surrendered spiritual consciousness, that will be put into an account. And at the time of death, this is my understanding, all of that account gets opened. And you get recall to all those highest places of consciousness that you experienced in this life. When you are fully consciously present of the savor that you are performing with complete focus, that all will come together like that. That will be the result of your various savor. And with that package, with that potency, you will take the next birth, depending on the, like little drops of mercy come day by day as we chant, as we read, as we hear, and gradually these drops start to form a pond, a lake, right? And if we're fortunate enough, that lake will fill, and it'll even begin to overflow. The overflowing will be one who's always weeping. They're always in tears. Like Raghunath Das would just always be in tears, weeping. You remember Srila Bhaktivedanta Trivikram Maharaj? He was just always weeping, weeping, weeping. He would start to speak, and as soon as he started to speak, he would just, tears would come. My Gurudev would also, but he would be trying to, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada would have to check himself many times, because otherwise people would try to imitate this. That's why he did. You understand? It can never be lost. Never ever. Never ever. Because it creates a sanskar. It creates an impression on the heart that lasts forever. Just like various foodstuffs that we take. If we take pure prasadam, it'll have an effect on the heart forever, on the chitta. If we take contaminated foodstuffs, it will also have an effect on the heart forever. It stays there until you purify it.
But if you do Vaishnava Param,
Then you get finished, then it all gets washed away, yes. Then it can be, yes.
The bank
He's
balance,
talking,
Huh?
you think the bank balance gets washed away with Vaishnava?
Yes, you can go bankrupt.
I'm in trouble.
Yeah, you're in big trouble. It's like the, what's it called, the mad elephant offense. The elephant gets in the corn field and just smashes everything to pieces. All your carefully tended blossoms of devotion just get wrecked and smashed. Krishna won't tolerate it. If there's this ninda, this offense to Vaishnavas, we must be so careful for that. We've got to first of all know what are the offenses. We've got to become educated in what are the offenses, what are the 10 offenses to chanting the holy name. We should have copies regularly and be looking at them to try and stay away from this. But in general, just be very careful not to commit offenses. Now, in our present situation, by reading books on this subject, we must clearly define our goal. Success is sure if we read and remember. We long to attain that goal. I must have that mood one day. I will not accept any other goal. We must be completely uncompromising, not accepting any other goal, no matter who offers it. We should think, even if Krishna himself comes and wants to offer me an alternative goal, I will not accept it. Who can be so determined? Only those with the Swarup, intrinsic spiritual nature, of a gopi can act in this way. So we have that potential by association. Kriti sadhya bhavet sadhya bhavsa sadhanavita. Nitya siddhyasya bhavasya prakritam riti satyate. Prakritam means in potential. We have that potentiality. If we've come to the camp of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, my Gurudev has said repeatedly, it's almost 100% assured that you have this Gopi Bhav potential within you. If by some fluke, by some amazing chance we've come to this Mahaprabhu's mission, Mahaprabhu's line, then it's practically assured that we have this potentiality. But it'll bear fruit only if I walk in that direction. It's not going to bear fruit if I just keep doing other activities, building temples and doing construction and, or, you know, all other different. It's not going to. How can it happen? How can it happen? What is the reality of this? The reality of this is that the material world doesn't hold any speciality for the soul at all. And if we get implicated in various material desires, we're up to our neck in material desires all day. As soon as we wake up, we want to drink a water, want to do this, want to do that, go to the bathroom, so many different things. We're attending to the body all day, from morning till dusk. How to get just a little bit off that bodily platform, even for a few moments of the day. You know, what to speak of longer and longer, especially in our meditation. But we can do it. We can do it with the potency of the holy name. It'll give us that determination. What?
When someone builds temples or distributes books,
If they're doing it on the order of their Gurudev.
that's my question.
Yes, if their Gurudev has ordered them to build a temple, if their Gurudev has ordered them to distribute books, if you're doing it on his order, then that will bear fruit. But if it's just a whimsical thing, then you'll just get implicated in the material mechanism of all that.
Even if it's the order of the guru, still there must be the purification of the heart.
That will come from the order of the... If the Guru gives you order to build a temple, it's in order that Guru can see. Like, for example, who was it? Jagannath Das Babaji engaged his disciples in planting eggplants, in gardening. He wanted them to purify themselves by just doing some menial agricultural activity. They objected. They wanted more sort of rasik direction. They didn't understand that actually just by following the simple order of Guru, they would become purified of heart. So that's one example. But to build a temple, you know, if Guru orders you to build a temple directly, if he orders you to take sannyas, for example, then it has purpose. If you just whimsically decide, oh, I will take sannyas, for what reason? Most likely just for pratishta. That's most likely the idea. If you want to take that ashram, it's just to impress somebody or something. But if Guru wants you to do that, he wants you to join his mission in a fully submissive, surrendered way. Like Prabhupada enlisted many, many young men. I remember Indradumna Maharaj was telling us a story one time. He was, his son I think was 4 years old, and he was asked by Prabhupada to take sannyas. 4-year-old son. I mean, that's quite a wrench. 4-year-old son is like they're at their peak of attraction and attachment. And he did. He left his family and took that on the order of his Guru. So that's a very great thing to do. Almost all the associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu have this kind of sarup, although there are a few exceptions, such as Murari Gupta, who is Hanuman in the pastimes of Lord Sri Ramchandra, and Anupam, another eternal associate of Sri Ram. Hanuman and other elevated associates whose swarup is different from that of the gopis have no taste for this subject matter, even if they hear about it. The same is true for Srila Haridas Thakur, because he was Brahma. According to the descriptions of his character in the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his swarup was not that of a gopi. Brahma is the original guru of our sampradaya. In the 10th canto, 14th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, he prayed to attain the dust from the lotus feet of the Brijbasis, but he did not state clearly that it should be the gopis' lotus dust feet dust. Uddhav, on the other hand, specifically prayed for the dust of the gopis' feet. We see in Brahma Samhita that Brahma performed worship by means of both the Gopal mantra and Kam Gayatri, but that was only to gain power for creation, not to attain Gopi Prem. Hear these examples carefully. This is Lord Brahma we're talking about. What is his desire? This is what hearing these descriptions of the Gopi Gita are intended to produce, a greed for this Ragmarg, an unwavering greed. 1 year later, after Krishna made his promise to the gopis on the full moon night in autumn, he looked at the moon and began to play his flute. He considered, our forefather, the moon, has a beloved other than his wife, Rahini. His beloved is Purvadish, the eastern horizon. The most erudite Srila Vyasadeva, who knew how to apply all literary metaphors and ornaments, Alankar, marvelously described this scene as follows. Krishna was thinking, the hands of our forefather, the moon, are smeared with kumkum. Those hands, his rays, are decorating the face of his beloved Purvadish without any difficulty, and she is shyly accepting that reddish ornamentation. Why should I not do the same? The sun rises in the moon rises in the east, the same as the sun. It arises in the same direction. And what do we see on the western horizon? We see the sun going down, all colored red. So it appears that the moon is decorating the face of the western horizon. It's as if he was consorting with the wife of Suryadev rather than consorting with his own wife. So that's what the metaphor, that's the symbolic of the metaphor. Who is Chandra? Chandra is the Vamps, is the dynasty where Krishna appears. Lord Ram appears in the Surya Vamps, in the Sun dynasty. So there are different lines like that. But Krishna is seeing that his forefather, the moon, is anointing the face of someone other than his wife. So then he's thinking, well, if my forefather can do that, why not I? It's a little bit, anyway, that's how Krishna saw it. Why should I not do the same? In other words, the reddish rays of the moon radiated throughout the forest, bathing the trees and the rivers and everything else in a red light. In that ambrosial atmosphere, thoughts of the gopis came to Krishna's mind, and he remembered his promise to fulfill their innermost desires. He pondered, by diffusing the reddish hue of his gentle rays and by glowing with the effulgence of the newly applied vermilion, Chandra, the moon god, has reminded me of my promise and has placed within my heart the inspiration to fulfill it. This is the perfect moment for me to do so. Then, on that full moon night of the autumn season, he played a beautiful melody on his flute, and the gopis came running to him. But when they arrived, he told them to return to Braj. A lady should serve her husband, he said, regardless of his qualities. Her husband may be poor or plagued with diseases, but she should serve him under all circumstances. At first the gopis did not say anything in reply, but within their minds and hearts they questioned, does he really mean it, or is he joking with us? They observed him closely as he tried to cleverly hide his real intention. It seemed that he was honestly expressing himself in a straightforward manner, but in fact he was not. There's nothing straightforward about Krishna. Finally the gopis said, you are our guru, and as such you are giving us so many instructions. We know that even in the presence of God, a person should serve his Guru Dev first. So let us first serve you, our Gurudev, before we return to serve our husbands. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Yayata mam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajami aham, ama vartmana bantante, manusya partha sarvashaha. Bhagavad Gita 4:11. As all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects of Sanaprita. Sri Krishna was instructing the gopis and also telling them, I am God, so you should obey me. The gopis replied, we agree that if you are God, we should certainly obey you, but our first duty is to serve our Gurudev. when we have executed that order, we will obey your instructions to serve our husbands. Our second consideration is this. We know that God is our Father, God is our real husband, and God is everything. So if you are God, then you are both our husband and our guru. In every way, if you do not accept our service, you will be guilty of acting against the principles of religion. You are giving us instructions on religious principles, but you should practice this yourself. So the gopis are speaking in exactly the way Krishna wants them to. He's pushed them into a corner, and he wants to see, how greedy are you to associate with me? And the gopis have broken free from their shyness in front of him, from their fears, etc. And they've come out boldly. And they've said, well, if you're God, yes, okay, we'll accept that. But God must be worshipped by Guru, and you are also our Guru. So they defeat Krishna. This is what Krishna wanted to hear. He wanted to hear their expertise to defeat him, to get the result, to fulfill their desires. At last, Rasa Leela began. So I'm going to stop now. Our time is over. But you should read this ahead yourselves and taste the speciality of these descriptions. Regularly, if we don't do it regularly, like I said before, we're not going to be able to remember it. It'll just disappear. I've experienced many times, like for example, reading Jaiva-dhamma. We were reading the Rasa Tattva section. As soon as I close the book and finish, I stop thinking about it. Unless I can find someone else to talk to about those topics, it just goes off the boil very quickly. So these topics also can quickly go off the boil. If you have one associate in this life, even just one person that you can speak regularly about these topics, then that's such a blessing. You don't need to have a whole big sangha. There'll never be a time when a whole big sangha is all talking about these topics, except in the company of a Mahabhagavat Rasik Vaishnava, like my Gurudev. When my Gurudev was on the planet, he would throw questions at us, and there'd be hundreds of us, and we'd all be talking about these topics for hours after the class. He would just inspire us to talk about these things. We'd go to the books, look at it, have discussion, etc. But when that potency, when that powerhouse leaves and everyone becomes scattered, then the focus becomes more difficult to catch. But if you have one person, Srila Bhakti Rakshakshita Maharaj has said the same thing. You don't need to have a whole big sangha all speaking about. He says, if you have one or two friends who you can share these truths with, then you will grow daily. Some confidential friend to bring these truths to the surface of the consciousness. Otherwise, they will just go to sleep in a moment. Shri Gurudev ki jai, Gopi Gita ki jai, Ananda Kota Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Go Prem. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol. Go Premanande, Shri Gurudev ki jai, Gopi Gita ki jai.